Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're zeroing in on Genesis chapter 12. Just a few verses, actually, 15 through 20. Seems short, I know, but we're going to unpack how incredibly rich it is. It's more than just an ancient story. It really gives us this window into human nature, God's faithfulness, and honestly, a surprising preview of some major events way later in the Bible.
Yeah, we're drawing on a conversation called Abram's Folly, God's Faithfulness, Genesis 12 Unpacked. Great stuff in there that helped us pull out the key nuggets for today. So our mission, if you will, for this deep dive, uncover how the original Hebrew really lights up these themes of, vulnerability, some deep irony, and this unwavering divine protection, even when people mess up big time.
Absolutely. And what's so striking is how the language itself, the specific Hebrew words, make Abram's choices seem so stark right from the get-go. You kind of expect these biblical figures to be flawless heroes sometimes, but this passage, it challenges that immediately, shows you the real complexity. Okay, so let's dig into it. Abram's, let's call it his plan, starts unfolding, and the consequences, they hit fast. Verse 15 tells us his idea about Sarai pretending to be his sister. Well, it works in a way. Pharaoh's officials notice her. They praise her beauty to Pharaoh. And then the text just says pretty bluntly, she was taken into his house.
What does that actually mean, that phrase, she was taken, in the Hebrew? How does it show us just how bad her situation was?
Right. The Hebrew verb there is watukwak, literally, and she was taken. And the grammar here is crucial. It's passive voice. That emphasizes Sarai has zero agency, none. She's an object being moved, essentially. Just highlights her complete vulnerability because of Abram's scheme. And it's pretty sobering, like you said. I mean, Abram, the guy who was just promised a great Shem, a great name, a reputation, he's totally silent here. Fails to protect her. I think the writer wants us, cringing a little bit at how unheroic he seems right then. Yeah, that silence is loud, isn't it? And the discomfort, it just ramps up. Because verse 16 hits us with this detail that's almost hard to believe, and it went well with Abram for her sake. How do we even process that? Abram's getting material benefits right away while Sarai is in Pharaoh's house.
It is deeply unsettling. The Hebrew phrase is heat lo. It literally means it went well with him, or like our source material puts it, he got the VIP treatment.
Right.
And yeah, look what he gets. Sheep, cattle, donkeys, camels, servants. It's basically like Pharaoh's paying a bride price or a dowry. And it's all tied directly, explicitly to Sarai being in this incredibly dangerous spot. It really forces you to think, doesn't it? How often, maybe even in our world, does someone benefit while someone else pays a huge price? This ancient story makes that very stark.
That moral tension is just, wow. It feels really modern in a way. Okay, but just as Abram seems to be, profiting from this awful situation, verse 17 flips the script completely. It says, "But YHWH afflicted Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai." Okay, plagues. What's the weight of that word here? What's this divine intervention signaling?
Huge significance. This intervention and that specific word connects directly to events much later. The Hebrew word for plague, or maybe striking, is niga. And here's the thing. That's the exact same root word used later for the 10 plagues God sends on Egypt in Exodus. It's uncanny. It's like a miniature preview of the Exodus story. It powerfully shows God stepping in directly to protect the promise, to protect Sarai, even though Abram totally failed to do it himself. It really underscores God's commitment to his promises, Even when his people stumble badly, driven by fear.
Wow, the promise overriding the fear. That's powerful. And then the story gives us this incredible moral reversal. Verse 18, Pharaoh, the pagan king, the one who was deceived. He's the one who calls Abram out. He confronts him, asks him straight up, "Why didn't you tell me she was your wife?" What makes Pharaoh's reaction so impactful here?
You can almost feel the heat in his voice, even in the text. The Hebrew actually uses lama, why, twice. He says, essentially, "Why did you do this? Why didn't you tell me?" That repetition, it screams shock, indignation. He cannot believe Abram did this. And honestly, it makes Abram look really bad compared to this supposedly pagan king. It highlights Abram's moral failure so directly.
And Pharaoh doesn't just yell, he acts. Verse 19, he gives this sharp command, "Take her and go." What's the force of that word take there?
Right. The Hebrew is lakwa, and in this context, it's a sharp cutting command. It completely undoes Abram's earlier cowardly little request to Sarai, Imria, please say you're my sister. Pharaoh's basically saying, game over, take her, get out now. It's abrupt, decisive.
So Abram gets kicked out. But what's really striking about how verse 20 describes his departure, Pharaoh tells his men to send him off with everything he had.
Yeah, this is where it all comes together in this really amazing parallel. The Hebrew verb for they sent him away is shiuli. And that verb, shilu, directly echoes the language used later when Israel is sent away, kicked out from Egypt during the Exodus. It's just incredible when you see it. The pattern is right there. They go into Egypt, there are plagues, and then they get sent out with possessions. Abram is literally living a kind of mini Exodus right here at the dawn of the whole covenant story.
That Exodus connection is just stunning. It really raises the significance, doesn't it? So let's recap the immediate result. Sarai's safe.
Preserved, yeah.
Abram leaves Egypt not just safe, but with wealth. Pharaoh gets judged. And the takeaway seems to be that God's promise to Abram, the covenant, it's alive and kicking, even though Abram himself was, well, wobbling pretty badly out of fear. So when we boil it all down, what's the core nugget of knowledge here? What's this passage really telling us about God and, well, us, human flaws?
Well, I think the biggest thing is this. God's plan, his covenant, it doesn't ride on us being perfect. Not at all. Look at Abram. Fear makes him lie, deceive, put Sarai, the promise bearer, in incredible danger. He literally went down to Egypt. And in his fear, he almost ends up cursing the nations through Pharaoh instead of being the blessing he was promised to be. And yet, God flips it. Divine faithfulness steps in. God protects Sarai, protects the lineage, and even reveals this profound pattern of future deliverance. It shows us that God's faithfulness is just so much stronger than our fear. He can work his purposes even through our biggest mistakes.
Yeah, that's huge. So this quick dive into just 6 verses, Genesis 12:15-20, it really shows so much, doesn't it? We saw Sarai's vulnerability in that word, watukwa. She was taken. Abram's really uncomfortable prosperity. It went well with him at her expense.
Right.
Pharaoh's indignant why, that lama. God's protective strikes, or nega. And then Abram getting sent away, echoing Exodus. It all just weaves together this picture of God's promise holding strong despite human weakness. It's really a story about grace, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's all about grace.
So maybe something for you listening to reflect on today. Maybe true faithfulness isn't found in trying to be perfect, but in recognizing the divine grace that works through and even transforms our imperfections.
Yeah, and maybe a final thought to chew on. If God's promises could withstand such a massive human failure right at the very start of this covenant journey, what does that suggest about the resilience of his faithfulness in our own lives, in the messy stories we're all navigating today?
That's a great question to leave us with. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and we'll catch you next time.